What's up? I'm Dan Fredenberg, and this is another chance encounter.
Hey, what's up? I'm Dan Fredenberg. I'm a commercial real estate guy. I'm from the internet. We're seeing more properties like this being built in front of a house that's going to be torn down soon. I understand that there are power lines that are getting kind of close. What's up again? This is Dan Fredenberg, and that there is a commercial real estate building.
I'm joined today with Barbara Shelton. How are you doing today, Barbara?
Hey, I'm doing well. Everything's good. The sun's shining, so can't complain.
Oh, well, and I got something that's going to make it even more special for you because I don't know if you know this, but today we are joined by my very favorite member of the audience. And why is my favorite audience member here? It's because this is a chance encounter where I interview commercial real estate syndicators, players, buyers, sellers, deal sponsors, and all that kind of fun stuff. And you may think to yourself, why would you do that? And the answer is if you've ever heard of an off market, a private deal that you're not allowed to publicly discuss, then you should know that the SEC requires that you have documentation of your prior substantive relationship, or else they'll get ants in their pants, and you don't want that. So that's what we're up to. But the benefit for you watching is mainly twofold. One is you're going to improve your ability to effectively communicate on the subject of commercial real estate deals. And in the process, you're going to understand how my guest fits into those. But before we get too deep into real estate deals, Barbara, do you want to say a thing or two about yourself?
Yeah, definitely. So I'm based in the DC area, but currently my properties that I'm looking at range everywhere on the East Coast from Virginia down to Florida. I work with a great team here and we are 2024, we're getting after it. We're fairly new to multifamily, but this is definitely, I think everyone's been talking about it, just going to be a huge year for just real estate in general. It's going to be probably one of those years that are page turners, game changers, all of the above.
I completely agree. I completely agree. And of course, you're getting straight into motivations at the end of the day. But before we do that, I got to say, but wait, check your eight. Hey, Barbara, I don't know if you can do this with your setup, but maybe you can see through the camera and into the audience's device. And down there might be this hideous subscribe button, and maybe they want to do something about. Okay, it's a stupid joke, but I've done it so many times now. It's we're committed, so what can you do?
That's right.
The five distinct motivations. Honestly, everybody has their own unique why for what they're up to, whatever decision they're making. But at the same time, now that I've interviewed over 300 different syndicators, deal sponsors, and whatnot,
Hmm.
honestly, like it's clear that everybody has their own unique why, but they fit pretty neatly into these five different categories. But the reason why we need to know what each other's motivations are is because these deals take months to close. They take
Hmm.
years to go full cycle. And we need to have some sort of indication of why isn't this person going to throw in the towel? Okay. And I found once again that they fit pretty neatly into these five different categories. The first of which is preservation of purchasing power. What on earth is that? Well, some people, they don't need to have a job. And so the way that they make ends meet or pay their bills is from the proceeds of ownership. In other words, they have a portfolio of assets, and the profits from ownership end up being their way to pay their bills. But why would somebody in that situation need to make another acquisition? Why would they go through the hassle? Well, there's a couple situations that really stand out. One of them is if inflation is rearing its ugly head, that's going to eat away from the purchasing power of your cash flow, and it's going to be time to make another acquisition. The other time is when there's a high amount of distress or an asset crash. That's going to be a time to scoop up more properties because you're going to be buying it at a steep discount. Now, of course, everybody should try to buy at the steepest discount they possibly can, regardless. But these guys, they really don't need to wait that long, or they, for the most part. Now, admittedly, I'm not to that stage in my commercial real estate career. What I'm up to stems from the fact that I've got a background in technology, specifically. It's as a when you're in tech, you may have the issue of being a high salary, high wage earner, and you'll notice that you've got this massive tax bill. And I came from the CRM industry. Specifically, it was the online funnels, accepting credit card transactions and all the web assets necessary for that, and emailing 5 to 7 million emails a month. So, but with when I was able to turn around to my old boss, who starting in 2014, that was a real estate guy in Ohio, and he was flipping 10 houses a month like clockwork for years before he hired me. And I noticed that he had a much better thing going on. So it hit me. I need to pivot to where I'm getting rewarded for my effort in the form of these little slivers of deployed capital, AKA equity, instead of focusing on a bigger and bigger salary. So that's why I pivoted so strongly into real estate. But I get it that that's a little bit too abstract for a lot of youngsters. Generally, younger people, they want to hustle like crazy right now so that they can fast track their retirement. But the more pervasive motivation that's like this is just the need to control your own schedule. So that might mean just working fewer months per year or something like that. But of course, one of the drawbacks of a lot of people's mindset is they think that secretly that's everybody's motivation in any kind of financial endeavor. But I assure you that's simply not the case. Like the next group, they're fueled more by ambition. They want to buy their entire hometown. They want that generational wealth so that their great grandchildren never have to hold a day job. And that's why they're going to hustle like crazy into their 90s, which, even though that's vilified in some circles, you have to understand that you need people like this to make sure that businesses actually follow through on their business plan and whatnot, and maintain their promises to the lenders and whatnot. So that's one reason why they're going to hustle into their 90s. But other people, they've picked a sector of society. Maybe it's animals, maybe it's the environment. Who knows what it is? But they figured out that there's a financial component to making a really big impact, and that's why they're making their commercial acquisitions. So, Barbara, as far as these 5 different motivations, what combination of them do you think describes you best?
Definitely for me, it's going to be trading the time and then also helping people who need it. I I generally in my family have I think I would say a lot of people that rely on me, just from my immediate family and extended family. And so, with that, I have my own business plan, coming in on the East Coast, and you hopefully can get enough capital one day to trade my time and money, and then help build some affordable housing, help get something of that nature up and moving so that everybody can have that housing security that really they need.
Yeah, I love that answer, especially the part about family. I think that that's something that really needs to be emphasized more often, because there's no point in hustling like crazy if you're sacrificing time with the people who are most important to you. So
Absolutely.
yeah, so emphasizing that's really important to me. But here we are talking about motivations, and normally my segue is a very positive one about how, well, we're talking about motivation innovations, and that's so happy and joyous and all that kind of stuff. But we need to control that optimism, because there are risks involved in every type of business, and commercial real estate is a very mature one. So
Mhm.
the risks are there because of just straight out competition. But if you've ever been involved in one of these off market deals, these private ones you're not supposed to discuss publicly, they're also called 506B syndications. Well, there should have been a securities attorney in the mix. And if there wasn't, that's a huge red flag that you are involved in a Ponzi scheme or something like that. So
Mhm.
make sure there was a securities attorney involved. Anyways, the securities attorney should have insisted that everybody fills out this super invasive financial questionnaire. You know, questions like, oh, what's your net worth? How long have you been investing? All this kind of stuff. So they're not very comfortable to fill out. And they're sometimes called suitability questionnaires. And one question that I found problematic personally was because it lacked utility. It was the tolerance for risk assessment question. And Barbara, we were laughing about this before the show. But the one that I use here is a fill in the blanks question, which I think is far more revealing. It is there are many popular investment asset classes, but I think blank is too risky. So, Barbara, it's fair game if it's inside real estate, outside real estate, that's fine. But what's too risky for you to invest in?
Yeah, so I would say new builds. So I think that would be class A properties typically. Um, just for where, at least for me personally, where I'm at, new builds, definitely would not think about syndicating any new buildings or class A properties.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yep, I love that. You know, I completely agree that the problem with A class properties is that people's egos tend to get a little bit too involved, and you know, people want to own the shiny apple when the cash flow positive apple is a
Exactly.
yeah, is much better. So that's pretty funny. But that, of course, you know, already at the risk of seeming like a complete nerd, now we're going to talk about our favorite deal metrics, which is always a spicy one at parties. But in all jokes aside,
Right.
right? I actually did not include this slide in the first like 300 chance encounters because I knew that some people in this industry, they're more like the public relations or marketing, you know, the front of house sort of role. So they're not going to be the type of person that realizes exactly how many metrics underwriting actually hinges on.
Yeah.
But even if you are that front of house person, I've come to realize that you still are going to have some metrics that you hone in on and vet your deals off of. And so I ask people to give like their top three or something like this. And I've got, to jog people's memory, I've got 14 of them up on the screen, which is still not an exhaustive list, but chances are this gets most people's big ones. And for anybody in the audience who is listening and not watching, I read them out to everybody. So the first one is cash on cash. Next is IRR, or internal rate of return. Then cost per door. Then the NOI, which is net operating income. Then there's going in cap rate, which is actually talking about the difference between what you're buying for versus the going rate in that area. Then the loan interest rate, which is especially important if you're going to be assuming a loan. Then you have the occupancy rate, which is the inverse of vacancy. So occupancy and vacancy are essentially the same number, but inverse. Then you have average income, where the property is located, the amortization period of the loan. Once again, if you're assuming the loan, that's going to be important. Then you have the difference between the market and the in-place rents. The next one here we have is population growth, and that is some baked in appreciation just from additional demand. We have the sponsor record, which is how many deals have gone full cycle already and how many are on the go at any given time. Or
Mhm.
at that current time, I suppose you should say. Then we have the waterfall, the split or exit strategy, which is what happens to your capital after, what happens to your investment after your capital is already returned? Like, do you still have some sort of residual income, or are you basically out? Then you have the DSCR, a big one recently, which stands for debt service coverage ratio, which is how much of the revenue from rents is going out the door immediately just to loans. So, Barbara, again, it's fair game if you have any from off of the list, but what are some of the metrics that you depend on most?
Yes, for my team, I'm the primary underwriter, so I could talk about this all day, definitely. But I really hone in on the exit value and the exit strategy in general, cash on cash, and then definitely looking at that net operating value as
Mm-hmm.
well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, good stuff. And yeah, it's that was some good stuff. And I'm just eating up this
That's right.
delicious subscribe sandwich right now. Holy moly, that's it kills me every single time. But it's the reminder that it's time to bring out the Dan Does Deals Commercial Core Competency Cube with the 6 different roles in a commercial real estate deal. And I go through it in every episode because it really is the linchpin in understanding how my guest fits into these deals. And if you watch me go through this and go, hey, I really need me one of those, well, the good news, it's absolutely free. You go to dandoesdeals.com and there's this great big button. You can just click on it and download it and you can print it out and all that kind of stuff. Exactly. You can practice on your friends and family. And the main reason why I put this together to you, and also I committed the cardinal sin of marketing, which is the cardinal sin of marketing is you should always ask for some sort of contact information in return for your freebie. And I didn't do that. Okay. I didn't ask for your email or anything like that. And the reason is because it's so important to me that you learn to confidently speak on the topic of a commercial real estate deal, because that is what your future in this industry is going to hinge on. You have to be able to speak about it very, very clearly. So you can go there, you can print it out and have lots of fun with that. But let's get started. The most visible person in a commercial real estate deal is a repositioner. They're the acquisitions person. They're the curator of the deals. In other words, they're figuring out which of these hundreds of deals out there are they going to hone in on and decide this is the winner. And how are they going to do that? Well, it's a bunch of paperwork. And the fancy word for it is it's called underwriting the deal. And that means they're figuring out if, first of all, is this property even making the amount of money that the seller slash broker claims it is, because okay, so they need to be able to figure out if those numbers are legit or not. They need to be able to make different guesses and estimates and projections. And one of the things that they're really looking for is upside. They're figuring out how can they change the business fundamentally so it's making more money. And one peculiar thing about repositioners is that they're going to have extensive financier relations. Okay, so that's investors, that's lenders, that's bankers, that sort of thing. Repositioners need to know a lot of financiers, the people who only deal with paper and money, and the people who own businesses. Okay, those are the financiers. And the reason why you have to be cozy with so many financiers is because if you can access cheaper capital, in other words, a more advantageous loan or cheaper money, well, that goes straight to the profitability of the building. So that's why the repositioners have to have all those relations. But that aside, the more typical place that a repositioner looks is more efficient operations. In other words, they stop those Benjamins from going down the toilets. But of course, there's more to operations than just unclogging toilets and collecting rents and mowing lawns and shoveling snow and all that kind of fun stuff. One thing that I contribute to a GP team when I'm on it is the web-based assets and any social media needs, those sorts of things. But the bigger thing to understand is when you are looking at the bigger properties like I tend to, which is 100 units or more, then even though you're going to be outsourcing to a third-party property management team,
Mm-hmm.
Somebody on the GP team needs to have some serious marketing chops because vacancy is the enemy. If they cannot fill the units, somebody's got to be able to step in and get those units filled. So that's where I can fit in, and I have fit in on GP teams in the past. But of course, there's only so much wiggle room you can do with operations. So the next
Mm-hmm.
place the repositioner, this public facing commercial real estate person, will look is they will get a contractor team involved to do a value add to make the property nicer. And the entire reason for that is because if you make the property nicer, then the future residents will be happy to live there and happy to pay more in rent than the previous ones. But if
Mm-hmm.
only commercial real estate were that simple, you can spend endless amounts of money on contractors. You can go ahead and gold plate the toilets if that's your thing, but you're not going to get a decent return on investment. And that's not the only way to lose money on contractors. So if you're like me, I don't know if you know this or not, but I'm from the internet. So that means I need locals. I need boots on the ground, somebody who can be there in an hour or two, because categorically, that will not be me. I would still be at an airport in an hour or two. So somebody needs to live nearby so that they can keep an eye on the contractors, make sure they're not using subpar materials or dragging their
Mm-hmm.
heels on the schedule, and making sure that the operations team, even if they're an outsourced third party, making sure that they're not sloughing results or making things up, or it's not a complete mess. Basically, this seems like you have an entire real estate GP team, but we're
Mm-hmm.
not done yet. Let's say you're an engineer or a physician or an attorney or something like that, and you get the idea in your head, hey, I know how to buy a house. You put down your deposit and then you get a bank loan for for the rest. Well, if I want to take over that 350 unit apartment complex down the street with my friends, I wonder how many it would take that each throw in like 100K or something like that before we could take it over. Well, you, the new repositioner, turn around to the financiers and say something along the lines of, I really want this building. It's tens of millions of dollars. You don't have, I don't know, tens of millions of dollars you want to lend us, do you? And the flaw in your little plan is that you're going to be asked, who's your sponsor? Who's your KP, your key
Mm-hmm.
principal? And what's that all about? See, if you're in some sort of mentorship program or you have a guru, I encourage you to listen very carefully to this next part, okay? Because they tend to gloss over it quite a bit, okay? You're not going to be eligible with your circle of friends to take over that 350 unit apartment complex with a commercial loan, because the bank needs to make sure that you're not going to take their depositors' money and then run the property into the ground. And the way they do that is by saying you're not eligible unless somebody in the fold already owns a similar asset. So you can't get a loan for a 350 unit apartment complex unless you have somebody who already runs a 300, owns more specifically, a 350 unit apartment complex. Then on top of that, you need a certain amount of liquidity. And then among the GP team for collateral, you need a balance sheet of at least the amount of the loan. But if you got all those pieces, you got yourself a commercial real estate deal. So, Barbara, as I mentioned before, everybody in this industry is to some degree a repositioner and has some sort of financier relations that they have to do. But I don't want to put words in your mouth. What are the parts of the cube that you are most likely to uh, contribute on your next deal?
Yeah, I contribute mostly doing almost exclusively, at least for my team, the underwriting and research, market research, for the properties that we're assuming, and then also a capital raising. Those are really the two places that I have my hand dipped in the most. And you said you are what role are you in?
Yeah, so operations, like basically whenever you do the financier relations, anything that's outbound, you need to have some sort of asset management roles in order to be on a GP team. And so that's the contribution I did as far as the actual experience goes.
Awesome. Okay, great.
Yeah, so there you go. Cool. So that's as far as the actual roles go. Now the next question is buy box. And when people in this industry are saying, "Hey, what you looking for? What's your
Hmm.
ideal property?" We're really asking about three main things. First one's geography. Where is it? Okay, which state, which county, possibly even which neighborhood, okay? It's definitely
Hmm.
going to matter. Now, the second one is size. Now, most of my guests on this show are in multifamily, and in multifamily, the way you define size is by the number of apartment units. Of course,
Hmm.
that's one of the fundamental reasons why the people invest in apartments is to avoid the single source of income problem that you have with single family. But when it comes to size, even beyond the single family into multifamily, the type of crew that's going to take over 10 or 15 unit apartment complexes, they'll be fundamentally different from the ones that are taking 150, 350 unit apartment complexes. So that's why
Hmm.
the size is going to matter. And that still is true when you're talking about versions of commercial real estate that go by acreage or square footage. It's the size is
Hmm.
still going to matter for that reason. But the last one is class, and I'm not a fan of the term class. I think it should be called desirability, and that's because class is singular, and fundamentally they're talking about two completely different things, which are the condition and the area. And if you're talking about the condition, that's how old is the property and the building, how beat up is the building, is it basically no frills, or does it have lots of luxuries and amenities to make it more
Right.
desirable? That's the condition. Whereas the area, since we're talking about residential in general, we will still be considering the fact that the school districts where the property is located are going to be very very important. But every type of real estate is going to depend on the crime rate where the property is located. But the other idea to consider is the old broker trope of location, location, location. But what they really mean is
Hmm.
traffic, traffic, traffic. If a gazillion people pass by an individual spot every single day, it's going to be far more desirable. And the way that you define desirability or class in the area and the condition, it's the same as in grade school. So you have A plus at the top, and then A minus, and then B plus, and so on. So
Hmm.
Barbara, as far as you and your group goes, what's easier to say yes to?
So for the property itself, anything that's between C minus and B for the property, and then the area, we will stay generally within the C categories. I personally would like to take on the challenge of a D area in general, but we haven't gone down that road yet. But that's something in the works that we're looking at, is coming into these D areas and bringing them up to a better either condition, because typically those areas and the buildings aren't maybe managed as well, and or they haven't had as much investment poured back into it. So I that's something in the future, definitely looking forward to do.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. All right, I love it. I love it. So that brings me over to the people in the audience, and my favorite thing about commercial real estate is the people, especially because it's such a supportive community, which is kind of
Hmm.
surprising when you come from other industries. Some industries are
Yeah.
very guarded people in general, but I chalk it up to the fact that because commercial real estate is multifaceted. You have these different fundamental roles, and nobody's going to be all six sides of the cube for any meaningful amount of time. Okay, they're going to hunker down on a couple roles or something like that and really excel at those instead of drawing themselves too thin. But even though we're that eager to make introductions and referrals and build new teams, even if we're not on them,
Mhm.
our own unique skill sets are going to some degree, dictate who we're better off helping. Now, of course, I interview all types of people on these chance encounters, but for my own business, I find that the sponsors and KPs I'm most eager to speak to simply because they've got a foundation already put together, and they're not in the position that a typical repositioner or a local would be in, which is where they need people putting in 80 to 120 hours a week just to even kickstart the business. If you've already got a business, then I'm more of the fuel for the fire, so to speak. But of
Mhm.
course, at the end of the day, we're also in the industry of deploying capital. So financiers, I'm always eager to speak to. But as far as you go, Barbara, if you have any 506B deals, don't mention them specifically, especially if you're saying that, hey, any investors out there come and, give us a dingle. But,
Definitely.
it's as long as you have a 506C or, you don't mention a deal, then you can mention financiers or investors to your heart's content. So,
Definitely. Yeah, so at the moment, always looking to partner with sponsors. That's something that, we routinely are looking for. And it's always, nice to connect with people, even if we, don't end up working together on a deal. It's definitely just nice to know who's doing what and what's happening. But yeah, at the moment, definitely the sponsors are the biggest. And that well, yeah, I'll just leave it there. That's definitely the biggest need at the moment is the sponsorship.
mhm. I love it. I love it. So then the next question has to be, especially if you were just described a moment ago, is how do you reach out? And I'm, of course, going to sandbag the conversation a second and talk about myself. So fortunately for the internet, I've got this pretty distinct last name, which makes me really easy to find, especially on
Mhm.
LinkedIn, which is the place where I spend most of my social media time. So that would be the best place to connect with me. Of course, if you head over to Amazon.com, I've got a few different books on there about different aspects of business skill building, including real estate syndication itself. But on the topic of syndication and taking on passive investors, if that sounds like you, then I can't urge you enough to make sure that you document your substantive relations with your investors. And so if you are going
Mhm.
to be involved in syndications, you can pause the video, you can scan this QR code right here, and that brings you to the FAQs page of 506BME. And
Mhm.
that is the platform where I offer the service of backing up all of the different IT and all of the cutting edge CRM technology that I've been able to put together to make sure that even if your laptop falls in the bathtub, then when the SEC audits you, you still are okay for the documentation of your substantive relations. But Barbara, if people want to reach out to you, I see you have your QR code on there. I don't know if you want to mention a website or phone number, email, whatever it is. What's the best way to reach out?
Yeah, definitely the best way to reach out. I have my QR code here. I do a lot of networking through LinkedIn as well. And then otherwise, it's definitely I get a lot of emails and phone calls, but phone is always easier for me. It's I don't for some reason it's just easier for me to sift through. So I'll give my number here. It's 760-496-9266. And I know it's a 76 area code. Everyone asks me if I'm originally from California, but no, that's just where my phone is from.
That's really funny. That's really funny because yeah, I'm the opposite, and so maybe that's what it is. It's like a karmic balance thing, you know. Like I'm a very peaceful, nice guy. Like when I lived out in Taiwan, though, like I can't tell you how many nice Taiwanese people I threatened their life over like just don't ever call me. You call me, I'll cut you, sort of thing. It's like just, yeah, I'm not big on phones. It's funny. That's sitting here all the time, right? Since 20.
Right. Yeah, well, it's easier for me at least. It's maybe I'm just old school. It's easier talking on the phone, okay, we're good, and or texting, some text to talk, and we're
Mhm.
good, and we'll chat, meet up later.
Yeah, yeah, it's funny. Yeah, I guess I tend
Yeah.
to front load relations, you know, just make sure that we like are in regular contact up front until we can meet less. It tends to be my thing. So
It's a
so
good
maybe
point.
maybe
Yeah.
that's what it is. But anyway,
Yeah.
so everybody knows that. That only leaves one more thing, and I confess it's not specifically for you, Barbara. It's for you in the audience, which is my public service announcement. If you've been watching this episode and experiencing searing pains in your eyeballs and like migraine-like symptoms, I'm confident that is due to the downright hideous subscribe button, which is just right down there. And it's free. You can just hit it. And okay, full disclosure, I want a lot of people to click the button because then YouTube will actually start to pay for these videos instead of me, and I think that would be amazing. And the trade off, just so we're clear to you, is that my videos may show up on your list of suggestions. But quite frankly, you can go ahead and ignore those suggestions because I really appreciate the fact that you spent this time with me. Just like Barbara, I appreciate you joining me. This has been great.
Of course. Thank you. And yeah, look forward to chatting more.
All right, sweet. Thanks. Hey there. Are you interested in commercial real estate deals? Would you like to build your network of investors and deal sponsors? Well, the best thing I can do for you is have you appear on a chance encounter interview as featured on dandoesdeals.com. You may know me from 506B Me or as a top commercial real estate voice on LinkedIn. And if I had to think of the top factors in your success in commercial real estate, my top two would be your network and your ability to effectively explain how deals work with effective communication. The 15-minute chance encounter format, it checks both of those boxes, and they ensure that you can share your private deals with me without the SEC calling it a public solicitation. So hop onto LinkedIn. You can see my name is over here, Dan Friedenberg, and search for my name. And the best way to reach me and book that is to message me through LinkedIn. And don't worry, it doesn't matter if you decided to enter this space just last week or 2 weeks ago, or if it was decades ago. It'll be fun and easy to look good. We're just asking multiple choice questions based on your core competencies you look to contribute, your level of sophistication, and all that kind of stuff. So I hope to hear from you soon. Thanks a lot. Make sure you 506B me. Any syndicators, make sure you 506B me.
Hi.
Oh, hey, yeah, here's my code. You got your QR code scanner? Okay, yeah, oh yeah, just hold it right in the square there. Okay, cool. And now you hit open in browser.
Okay.
Okay. Are you already logged into 506B me?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, cool. Yeah, so there's my video. So now I'm already on your watch list. So when you get back to your hotel, you can find out what my core competencies are and my level of sophistication. Sound good?
Yeah.
I love your hat. Real estate's a scam. That's really funny.
Yeah.
Nice meeting you.
You too.
506B me, everybody.